I guess was it comforting in a way, knowing that someone has been through it, and it gave you a bit of like, okay,
yeah, that it can be done.
Yeah,
because it wasn't something in my circle at all. It's that connection piece. It's understanding what you're going into, and I think that is really, really essential, because you're going into a place where you know, without a shadow of a doubt, you've got at least one thing in common, and that one thing is what actually drives us now. So Sober AF Dating was born out of a conversation with a business partner who was sober and dating, and she'd had some terrible experiences with regards to, that shall we go for a drink vibe. That's what most people say when they're looking on dates and they're on dating websites and applications that we're all aware of. And me speaking to other people having the very same experience. It's hard. Just because you're sober doesn't mean you want to date someone sober, by the way. That's what it's about. But mindful drinking is a real thing. Being sort of aware of your drinking and your habits and the traits that they become. So Sober AF Dating was born out of conversations that were like, well, there doesn't seem to be a niche for that. There's a market for those in recovery that want to date. There's not a market for those that just want to be healthier or just want to have a better experience, one that they can have no bullshit, but without the booze, basically. So that's what we've created. What we've really realised very, very quickly is that the community element is going to be just as important, and that's why it will take off in two avenues, because there's lots of people out there, myself included, that are not single but are sober, and we want to be involved in these things, because I don't want to go down the pub with my friends, because there's only one thing that's going to happen there, and that's not for me. But I can go to a golf and do, or a food restaurant with 20 other like-minded people, because I know where it won't go, and that's the pit for me.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Boardroom. I'm your podcast host, Luke Beastall, and I have a very, very interesting guest. And I say interesting because, we love to delve into story on this, but Jono, which I'm going to introduce just in a second, is a multiple business owner. He is owner of a recruitment agency, but he's also got something that's brand new, which we will touch into, because it comes from his actual own story as well, which is a sober community. It has dating involved in it. It just a lot of it, to be honest, comes, what we're going to be talking about today. I think the theme's going to be very nailed on this one word, which is connection. It's bringing people together, shoulder to shoulder, relatability, and helping people along the way. A lot of giving without taking, which I think would be a nice little piece there. But we sort of connected via, really, it was just, I put out a post to say, looking for guests. Jono raised his hand, and we've just been chatting beforehand, and yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun episode. So, hey guys, are you feeling burnt out or wanting a quick break away from the daily grind? Well, our friends over at Cyro Boca Place offer the ultimate destination for those seeking a blend of luxury wellness, adventure, and restoration. If you know me, you know I'm fully invested in health and well-being. So if you don't prioritize yourself first, how are you supposed to be showing up for others around you? Looking for an experience like this, head over to www.cyrohotels.com. Jono, welcome to the podcast today.
How you doing, Luke? Thank you for having me.
No, I'm doing great. And I think I know I said it to you straight off the bat, really. We were chatting before, it was like, this is just going to be such a, I don't want to say easy, but sort of a nice conversation, because we've got a sort of lot of similarities and values.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Look forward to it.
So I think this is a good piece to start on. Would you say sort of the current place that you are right now in your life is sort of like the best version of you?
Yeah, without a doubt. Absolutely. I think from every aspect of my life, whether it be business and most importantly, home life, family, children. I've got 4 children aging from 12 down to 18 months. So, big gaps in those, but I've never been more present. I've never been more involved. And absolutely the best place I'm at. As I encroach on 40, I think it's the best time of my life so far.
I like that. And I like how you've sort of involved every aspect as well, Jono, because it's sort of like, you can say, oh yeah, business is going really well, but then my personal life's kind of getting there. Obviously you've got 4 kids. They're looking up to you as a role model. I love the word present, because I think, as a dad myself, and there'll probably be people listening in here that are dads as well, or parents, that it can be challenging at times when you're running your own business. So what do you feel has sort of been the biggest turning point, or the thing that you've changed in your life to sort of help you come to this position today?
Honestly, I think probably stop drinking. As much as people won't want to hear that, or it's hard for me to say after many, many years of social drinking. I think probably 20 odd months ago now, I stopped drinking again to relive that sort of present word that we mentioned a moment ago, to become more present for the children. My youngest son, I've got 3 older daughters, and the youngest is a boy. He was due to be born, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna give this a go. I need to be more involved. I had a bit of a business disaster as well, which I'll come on to. It was little moments that made me think, I want to give this, I want to knock this on the head. I don't want this feeling. So yeah, stopping drinking. Fast forward now, 2 new businesses, moving forward. Kids are growing up, seeing me be involved so much more. I think the catalyst for that was definitely the putting down the alcohol.
How hard was that?
Very. And it wasn't that it was hard to give up the drink. It was hard to become the person that I thought for many years would, that would be boring. People say sober is boring. My best friends, are the ones that would say that initially. Now, don't get me wrong, they've changed their perception of that a lot.
Sure.
Because initially it was just a fad. Everyone says you're not going to drink. I don't want to drink on a Monday morning. Everyone has those conversations, don't they? But I was determined. So much so, reached out to different communities, reached out to people that I knew who had stopped drinking and needed to speak to people about it, because I'd had those moments year on year where I thought, I need to give this a rest, or I'm not drinking this weekend, or dry January. All those fads just wasn't for me. This was August. This was peak summertime. Just about to go on holiday, just about to have a wedding, just about to have a son, move house. All those 4 things were going to happen. And I was like, I'm going to stop drinking. So yeah, it took on a lot initially, but it made such a huge difference.
Yeah. I think it's great to sort of hear that, obviously it was your 4th child coming into the world, was it? Yeah. You sort of made that change. You wanted to do it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know you sort of said that your boy was coming into the world. You wanted to change. You wanted to make this big commitment. What made you think to yourself, I just want to do it differently this time? I don't want to be this guy that, business owner that's sort of drinking all of the time. And
yeah, you know what? It's loads of little different areas of it, but and it's hard to say. It sounds bad, I've got 3 daughters and 3 children. Why didn't you change then? No, I feel like I wasn't ready. It's not necessarily about my son or about his birth. It's about that this was the right time for me, and it just aligned with that. With that. I was 37 at the time, thinking, I can't do this anymore. I'm not younger. I'm unhealthy. I'm overweight. I'm all these things. And actually, my business, I went into a partnership with a venture capitalist type company, but I went into it with all the wrong ideas and all the wrong sort of information. Didn't do my research because ego took over. Yeah, great. I own the business. I do this. My name above the door. All of those things that sound great from an ego point of view, but actually weren't the right thing for me to do. So I started to see that become an issue. I started to see my drinking then sort of spiraling a little bit with regards to that, because it becoming an issue. And all of those aligned for me to go, do you know what? I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to give this path a go. And that just so it happened to coincide with a week before Jensen was born. And now he's like my little sober buddy, right?
Yeah.
He's my pal, and all of my children and my partner, I see the benefits of it, reaping the rewards of the change that I made for me and for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The fact that it's become a team thing as well. Like, you've brought people in as a result of your change, which I think is really important. And for people listening in to your journey so far, where, you can't obviously do it alone. You said you'd search for communities, which there's a good piece that we'll go into. But just so if you're happy to share, Johnny, just so people understand sort of your, I don't know, like your week, an average week in Jono's life when you was hitting the drink as a business owner. What did that, if you can remember, what did that sort of look like?
Well, it looked like a blur, Luke, I guess.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't mean that in the sense that I'm day drinking. I don't mean that. But I mean, if you asked me to pinpoint what my days were like, I couldn't really tell you because I can't really remember. That type of blur.
Right.
It was my weeks just became months, and the months became, almost a year, and then it became 18 months, and then it just became, what's going on? Where am I losing all this time? And I think that's really, really important, because at the moment, each day, I've got time back. I've got the ability to run a couple of businesses, but also drop my kids to school and go to their plays and be involved in their birthday parties and all these things that I would either see as a chore, as hard as that is to say out loud, that is the truth. I'd be like, oh, God, I've got a weekend with the kids.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So to go back to your initial question, the week would just seem like it was over and done with, because I'd be going to work on a Monday, but because it was my own business, I'd go in when I wanted, drop the kids off, I'd go for breakfast, I'd do what I want, get by through the day. I'd have a few members of staff, so the expectations on them were higher, but I wasn't really leading them. I was a manager, but not a leader. I wasn't showing what I'd learned. All my skills of recruitment for 14 years, I just abandoned as soon as I got the name above the door. It was like, oh, it's my business now. I can tell rather than do. And it just wasn't me. But the drinking sort of covered that up, masked it, and made me feel like I was doing a great job. And the business standalone, from a business point of view, because thankfully I'd made the connections and made the relationships in the past, was a success in its own right with regards to finances. But I wasn't the right person. I wasn't the leader. I wasn't the business owner. And the day just turned into weeks and months of dull, boring, bland, repetitive behaviour.
Yeah. So this was 14 years, did you say?
I've been in recruitment for 14 years.
Yeah.
So I started a recruitment business. So you know, I'd nurtured so much. I'd been taught and mentored by such great people.
Yeah.
I then sort of, I can do this, and then I just looked the other way with regards to how to actually do it, and became like this egotistical guy that ran his own business, but actually didn't run it particularly well when it came to the management and direction and control of the people and staff.
Yeah, no, this is just good to sort of understand. But so how long do you feel that your life was a blur?
Because I can't really remember it.
No.
But how long? I mean, my life has been a blur. Well, blimey, without the certain key figures, you know, births and events, stuff like that. Probably for 20 years, mate.
So 20 years, your life was just sort of like, you know, weekends, weeks turn into months.
Absolutely. It would go from Fridays to Friday to Saturdays to Friday to Saturday to Sundays. And then it would become Wednesdays. And then it would be, oh, okay, well, I've had a good day, so let's have a glass of wine.
Yeah, of course.
I've had a bad day, let's have a bottle. And it did, you know, people say to me, was you addicted? And it's like, well, I think I was addicted to the chaos, definitely. I was addicted to the need to go and do that. And did you have a problem? Well, did I have a problem with not showing up? Did I have a problem with not communicating properly? Did I have a problem with letting people down? Yes, to all of those things. So yeah, probably I did.
You hear people out the other side. It's sort of like, it's like, wow. But then you're also like on the edge of the seat going, what did you do? Like, how long was you in that place for? I mean, 20 years is a long time, right? Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying that you wasn't present. I'm not saying that, you know, you wasn't still a great dad and great partner and all that kind of stuff, obviously. But what I mean is the blur was sort of blended in with that. And I don't know whether it's like an odd question to ask, but if you was just like, you know, I know you can't read people's minds, but you said about like you weren't really a leader. You were sort of just going through the motions. You sort of just couldn't wait for a glass of wine or bottle of wine, depending on whether it were a good day or bad day. What do you feel sort of your staff members would have thought of you during that blurred time as you're their manager or their business owner?
I think probably disingenuous, you know. I talk a good talk. I have a reputation in the industry, in the marketplace, as someone that can drive things forward. I was often put into locations that were struggling to turn them around, you know, lead and get people to see the best in themselves. I think during that period of 18 months where I initially ran this business with a venture capitalist, that wasn't there at all. So they would have been like, well, I've heard all these things. I've seen all these things. The interview, I was told all this. And actually, that's not what's forthcoming at all. I think that's the biggest takeaway from me is that period in particular, that 18 months of my life, just letting people down and not being my true, authentic self with regards to how I do things. Because I've always surrounded myself with very, very good people. People to go. My best days are the ones where staff who worked with me were the ones who were given the awards, the ones that were promoted, the ones that were pushed and up in the lights, so to speak. They were the most successful days, and they are again now. But that was an area or a place in time where it just didn't happen. It just wasn't right.
Yeah, so disingenuous, not being true to yourself. You know, when you was going through that 18 months, obviously, you know, you're still in that bit of a blur. How was you feeling showing up every single day? Like that you didn't sort of feel, I'm not being myself, you know?
Well, I think that's where the drinking comes in, Luke, because I wasn't really feeling it, because
Yeah.
now I look back and I think, and that's not me. So I would have snapped out of that. I would have been like, this is not right. This is not the way to run this business or to support these people. So I think I was nulling that. I was getting that all sort of dampened down, and I wasn't really taking it into consideration. I certainly wasn't thinking about it because I was just thinking about what it looked like for me as a business owner to have my name above the door. That was really what it was, and it was quite egotistical and pretty selfish.
Yeah, that's actually quite. I appreciate you sharing that because I can relate to that, and I know people sort of hearing this will sort of relate to it. So the numbing part of that, what inside you? Because obviously business owners have a fire inside them. You've got discipline, you've got the sort of hard work mentality, you've got gift of the. You know what I mean? You're an owner, really. You're a leader. What got you to think? Do you know what? I'm actually going to take ownership of my life now. This is it. Enough's enough. I'm not numbing. I'm not running away from my problems and pain anymore. I want to face it and I want to own up to it.
Yeah. Well, I think from a business point of view, it was the realization that this partnership that I'd got into was needed to come to an end.
Right.
I wasn't prepared initially, probably a bit of an ego thing, but I initially wasn't prepared to let it end with regards to nothing positive coming out of it.
Okay.
So I had relationships already in place with clients and customers that I wanted to keep and had managed to maintain. Because like you say, as much as I feel I was letting myself down and my team, externally, I wasn't. My clients didn't feel let down. There was still business to be had there. It was still turning over a decent amount, for a first year startup, etc. I wanted to make something of it and I needed to grow. And I thought, I want to take this whole piece on. So that's where it came from, right? All of these years you've been working hard, you've been mentored by some excellent people that have shown you the way. You need to reevaluate and you need to bring that back to the table. You need to bring yourself back to the table. And that's what I started to do. So I started setting up and then that's where the two, joined at a juncture, which was, well, if I really want to take this on, I need to be better. I need to be more involved. I need to be present. What's stopping me from doing all those things? Well, I'm drinking too much. Okay, so take a step back to take a step forward.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, and that's how it went.
This is brilliant. So you checked in, really. You sort of slowed down a little bit.
You know what? Like you say, that drive is there. I knew what I had to do. I just wasn't doing it. So why am I not doing it? That's because of this. And I took that away. And I can't say overnight, but certainly with regards to a quick light bulb moment with regards to, okay, this is the way forward. And I haven't looked back since, really.
Yeah, this is good. And do you know, there'll be so many people as well that will hear this and go, gosh, yeah, wow. You're sort of looking at the helicopter's view, per se. You're kind of overlooking sort of the old Jono and going, well, it keeps going back to the same thing. This is the sort of bottleneck. This is the thing that's sort of always holding me back and causing me problems down the line. So something's got to give, something's got to change. And then obviously you sort of came to that. But it's good that you came to that light bulb yourself, though.
Absolutely. And look, people don't give themselves enough credit sometimes. So it was difficult, but it was part of a bigger picture. It was the business was the business that was going the way it was going. That was fine. That was a strategic move in the end from me with regards to how to get out of this and move forward. But my family is more important than business. Right? And if I carried on going there, then I would lose that. Right? And that's not an option for me. Not being there for those children as they grow up was not an option for me. So what do I need to do as much as I can to stop that from happening? And that's where it comes. So the business comes a massive second to my family. A massive second. As much as business drives me and I've got determination and everything I do is for my family. And that's it. And that's what it boils down to. So if I can't give up drink in this instance for them, then where does it lead? Where does it go? How can that be a thing? So and that's really the key for me. They come first, business comes second. And when I start to give to them, ironically, then I start to get from a business point of view. It's like the world you give and the world gives back.
Yeah. This is great. And just even hearing you now say it with that sort of, genuine passion, you can really tell you're not living a blurry life anymore.
I know.
Your head's in the game. So if I can give to others, because technically you're giving to yourself, you can't give what you don't have. And now you're seeing that actually, well, if I do focus on my human and family first, because we're humans, that the business is actually, as a byproduct, really sort of exponentially growing in a way that is brilliant. You've still got that sense of freedom and the time to go to the school plays. You can go and pick the kids up from school. It is a sense of freedom, really.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. It's that freedom. It's that peace. I use the word peace a lot. And
I've heard this a lot now. Yeah.
I don't mean it like peace,
I know what you mean.
But I'm at peace. I've moved to the country recently, and there's no peace in a house full of 4 children. Let's be clear on that. There's no peace. It's chaos. But
absolutely,
the peace is within. The peace is that I can sit down and I can relax. I can put my feet up, for the want of a better phrase. I can do those things as a business owner. But don't get me wrong. As you'll know, as we'll all know, anyone listening will know, your phone's there, you're always working. So you don't work 9 to 5. That's not a thing. But I can compartmentalize. I can have that break and I can be at peace while I'm in chaos. And that's where I used to create the chaos. And that's what I realized. I used to create it.
Yeah.
I used to go looking for it. Flip that. And I just surround myself with things that bring me peace. And if that means I've lost a few friends over the way, if that means I've had to say no to certain client events, if that means that, then so be it. Because if it's not bringing me peace, don't bring it to me at all.
Yeah, it's relating to what you said earlier about obviously you being addicted to chaos and you finding chaos in every, and so many people do. But I need drama or I need chaos. Yeah. It's it is quite addictive. I completely agree with that, and I think people will as well listen in. But where do you find peace then in the chaos? What helps you now?
Well, my partner would say I'm able to zone out, which she can't. So I just, the chaos is going on and the kids are running around. And she's do you hear that? I'm like, no. Do you know what? Where do I find peace? I find peace from the little moments. My daughter was 5 over the weekend, and I found peace in seeing her put her Lego together. I find peace in my son sort of starting to say his sister's names. I find peace on the golf course also, by the way. So I'm not just saying it's not all family related.
Yeah.
I look for peace in the smallest little things. It doesn't need to be, 10 hours on my own. It doesn't need to be a beautiful holiday. It can just be that moment when you've got, from your 12-year-old who, if 12-year-old girl, she's no interest in sitting with her dad anymore. But for that 10 minutes that she does when her battery's dead on her phone, and all 4 of them, sitting next to me, and we're watching something on the TV, that's peace for me. That's contentment. That's me thinking, you know what, I'm doing all right here. That's what I look for, and that's what drives me.
Love that, mate. I really love that. I think that's a very sort of pride and joy, but a happy piece there that you've shared. That and I think the little moments that absolutely, because they stack up anyway. I think sort of chasing peace from, like you say, being on your own for 10 hours, or I'm just daydreaming, or whatever it is. That's not always the case for people. I think it's just you can still capture those little moments. But I think the biggest word, obviously for you, and I think this probably links to your piece, is just being present. Yeah,
absolutely. I wouldn't see those little moments as much as I would have been here. Don't get me wrong. You mentioned earlier, I wasn't not involved. I was part of the family. I was here. I wouldn't be sort of gone or gone missing for weeks on end or whatever. I was here, but I was void. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday would be staring at the TV, watching football, watching boxing, watching UFC. That would be it. So I would miss the moment where my son would do something funny, or I'd miss the moment where my daughter would ask me a question and she really needed the answer. Those things that really make a difference for me. So yeah, being present is absolutely critical.
Yeah, I absolutely feel you on that. And I think just where you said there about being there in the moment, actually being able to take it on, not just being void or bypassing, you're sort of like there, no, listen, you've got my attention. I think that's the biggest thing, the attention.
Absolutely. And that's what the children want, right? From elder research I've done and all the work I've done with various different coaches and stuff over the years, bring it back to simplicity when you talk to children. What do they want? They want their mum and dad, or they want their caregivers around them and to be involved in what they do. If they've learned a new skill, if one of my daughters Irish dancing, if she's learned how to do something new and I watch and I praise, that's her buzzing for 2 hours. We don't realise how important that is to these children. That moment of well done, That's so little, but it's so much, and that's what I have taken away from everything. My children are very much involved. My 12 and 9-year-old, for example, will have a zero at the weekend. They'll be like, "Oh, is that a zero drink, Dad?" They'll joke, you know what I mean? Not because they remember the chaos, not at all, but because they're involved with me for a little bit. They see that I'm involved, and they see that I'm making a conscious effort to be different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I go to family parties, and I will be the only one not drinking, and my 12-year-old will notice that.
Yeah, they do.
She'll notice it, and they notice a lot. So I want to make the right impression on them now, because I spent a long time maybe not doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they soak things up like a sponge. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, children just want attention, they want love, they want presence, because as again, I'm going through my daughter's only 19 months, bless her. But as they grow up, and like you're just saying now, as 12 years old, your daughter, she's not completely engrossed. She sort of wants to do her own thing. She's maybe more independent now and stuff like that. It's not much time you actually do time-wise. You have that time from 0 to 12 when you actually put it into context. If you're doing your jobs and your businesses and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, the world now is very different. But I mean, for you now being this sort of best version of yourself as like a dad, entrepreneur, business owner, what do you ultimately want to sort of pass down to your kids? Not as a legacy just yet, but even just as values from your own learnings and what you're doing.
I think values is the key. I think I want to show my daughters. I want to show them different to what my son. It's difficult because that sounds misogynistic maybe, but that's not the case. I don't mean it like they need to be different people. I just mean
no.
I want them to see what a man should be like, and I mean that by leader. I mean that by supporting. My partner works full time. Just trying to establish that I don't mean go out and breadwin and all that. I just mean be a man, support, guide, show how to treat a woman. And I want my son to know how to treat girls, and I want them to all be working together. But the values is the key for me. I think it's important that they have manners, they have respect, they understand that things take hard work. You don't just get things in life. You have to work hard for them. And I instill that every day. We work hard. My partner works hard. She's a couple of businesses as well. And we show that sort of element to our children all the time. We talk to them through our decision-making process. I want them involved in it, certainly the 12 and 9-year-old, a little bit more. So it's important that they're just well-rounded for me. I don't have any expectations from them other than well-rounded individuals that, I like to think that if adults like to be around my children, then I've done well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of time you think, oh no, children are coming or whatever. But if mine are respectful, polite, well-mannered and communicate, then that's a key for me.
Yeah, I like that. I think, and I understand as well, it's going to be different for like a male and a female. But I think just that sort of manners, that hard work ethic, well-rounded, using the values, I think it's a really great thing that you shared there. And I think as well, obviously we know the generation they're in now, things have changed. There's a lot more opportunity, sort of like online, everything can be a bit wishy-washy and attention span can just go out the window. But I think just what you said there about, again, you're talking about your partner, obviously runs businesses. There's that sort of, I guess they're getting exposed to your environment as well, sort of what you get up to. Would you say and I just wanted to ask this because I know me growing up as well as a child, I didn't really feel this as much from my father. And I think it's starting to change now. Would you say you're vulnerable as a father to your kids? Do you hold that space?
Yeah. I would say so. I would say so, and agree with you. That wasn't something that I was involved in at all. My father wasn't vulnerable. My father wasn't really around much when I was younger. He was really relatively young and had his own demons going on, I guess. But I had no vulnerability really around me at all. My mum, my family, big Irish family, big sort of drinking family culture as well.
There you go.
I didn't have that. I didn't have that arm around. Absolutely not. My extended family, in fairness, my aunties in particular. And my uncles from my dad's side as well, they were all really, really sort of arm around me, but from afar because I wasn't involved as much. So yeah, I'm vulnerable, definitely, but I don't see vulnerability as an issue. I think vulnerability is key. I think there's a lot of stigma around vulnerability as a weakness, personally, but I don't see it that way. I think people think, if you're vulnerable, you're sending the wrong message. I don't agree. I think if I can show my children that emotions are okay, whether they're good or bad emotions, whatever way they guise, then again, it's really important that they're happy to share them. I want them to be able to talk to me. I want them to feel like they can tell me how they're feeling or going through. Again, with 3 daughters, it's going to be a struggle for me to get full disclosure from them. I understand them, and
Sure.
my son when he grows up, but I want them to feel like they can, and that includes vulnerability for sure.
Yeah, the reason I asked about it because the previous generations and stuff, they sort of like, it was like a crack on, keep going, carry on, keep going sort of mindset. So I agree with you. Vulnerability is not a weakness; it's a superpower, in my opinion. Brené Brown is really good at sort of sharing about vulnerability and courage and all that kind of stuff. When did that change for you, though, Jono, in your life, when you actually started to be more vulnerable, and what impact did that have?
I'm not sure on the impact. I think that I think I can only hope that the impact has been a positive one. I think it has, because they now talk to me more and they sit with me more, and so I can suggest that the impact has been a powerful one. But again, I think it's easy for me to say when I stop drinking, because that I'm clearer-minded now. I can remember things better. So I don't want it to seem like I keep bringing it back to that. But ultimately, that is what has been the biggest catalyst for change in my life. It really, really has. So I think I mentioned about just get on with it. Man up was the phrase that I would always hear.
Okay.
Man up, get on with it. But, pull your socks up.
Yeah.
Put your big boy pants on. Those things, right? So they're phrases that don't come out of my mouth anymore. I found myself catching myself over the years saying things that my parents would say to me, and I'd be like, oh my God, what have I just said? So I think from the moment I stopped drinking, and actually probably about 3 to 6 months into sobriety, really is when I started to feel my feelings again, because I've numbed them out for so long.
Right.
I hadn't had any. I would say that I didn't have a conscience, or I didn't feel emotion, and I never really felt bad about my behaviour. But looking back now, I absolutely do.
Yeah.
No one will feel worse about my behaviour than me. But at the time, I was like, yeah, it is what it is. That old shrug your shoulders, that shirky shoulder type approach.
Yeah.
Which is outrageous, really. But it took me three or 4 months to really realise that. Because again, as I say, things don't change overnight when you stop drinking. You have to work hard on it, and you have to work on yourself, and you have to sort of be at one with yourself, and that's really difficult when you've blocked it out for so long. I have to be comfortable in my own space. I have to be comfortable in silence, or with my things going on in my head, should I say? Sorry. So yeah, that was really difficult. So to answer your initial question, probably a few months into sobriety is when I really started to show my vulnerability and actually be at peace with my own emotions and the roller coaster that brought with it.
Yeah. I think it's quite open though, and thanks for sharing that. You didn't really feel emotion. You was sort of, like I say, the void, the emptiness, just not really sure until you sort of went through that journey and you did more. I guess really it's the deep inner work, on yourself to sort of discover, okay, this is where there's insights getting extracted and stuff. So what work did you do on yourself? What was this biggest transformational shift for you when you did start doing work on yourself?
I think connection with others is probably the biggest work that I've done outwardly, in the sense that I reached out to other people that I knew who had stopped drinking or that were soberish. And a lot of that came from an inner reflection. So I took a journal, and I would laugh at myself a couple of years ago if I said that, and that's
of course.
Really. But I started making notes. I started making sort of little bits of difference. I started writing about things that I'd never thought about, or things that made a difference to me. And I really sort of honed in on things that I felt were catalysts for change over the years, whether it be a relative passing, whether it be whatever it might be, the birth of a child. When I first had my first daughter, I went the other way. The old wetting the baby's head was like all I could focus on. So, I think the most work that I've done on myself is reaching out to others, because, and I said this before, and I stand by it. If you're looking for direction somewhere, and if you try to find them on your own, you're likely to get lost. But if you ask someone who's already been there, they'll tell you how to get there straight away. And that's what I did. I said, how do I do this? And a lot of the time people would say, avoid big events, avoid this, avoid that. But I'd already done those things in the first 4 to 6 weeks. So, I listen, I learn, I take on board other people's advice. Don't let it bog me down.
Mm.
But that's what I've done. I've really sort of made a conscious effort to connect.
Right. So connecting with others, I guess was it comforting in a way, knowing that like someone has been through it and it gave you a bit of like, okay.
Yeah, that it can be done.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't something in my circle at all. In my inner circle, and an outer circle, in fairness, there was none of this. There was no sobriety. There was no, I don't drink. So I had to go out of my comfort zone. I had to go to people that I only sort of knew. I had to put my ego aside and go, I could do with your help on this. And asking for help isn't easy, especially when you're in a situation where you haven't done that and you don't know really how to. So asking for help was a big thing. And yeah, it was difficult, but I would recommend it to anyone. If anyone was listening to this and they're struggling with regards to their inner circle, reach out to me or you. I'm happy to talk because it's what saved me, really.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, it's created a new life for you, really, a new lease of life. I don't know whether you can remember, I mean, I'm not sure I have to plug the person in on here, but who was the first person that you reached out to?
Well, actually, it was a group. To be honest,
okay. Facebook, LinkedIn.
It was Facebook. No, not Facebook. It was it was LinkedIn. I don't use Facebook, so it was LinkedIn. Yeah. So there was a group on there, and I went looking for an AA. I went looking at NA. I went looking to church. I went looking at loads of different places. Okay. My cousin's quite a devout Christian. I went to him. So I went to different areas of just how can I connect with these people? What is it that I can take away to help me? And that's what there's a group online that I speak to or did speak to. I probably need to delve back in there about sober business owners. That was quite cool. It's quite cool. I'm based in America, but again, you can come in from anywhere. That really helped. Again, business owners, being in business is a big thing. Being sober in business is another big thing. I add those two things together, and it's like, wow, we're a little community. It's not little at all. There's a lot of people in that community. So, yeah, I reached out everywhere, Luke, as much as I could. I spoke to everyone. I spoke to anyone and everyone who would listen.
Mm. No, I like that. It's just, I guess for me, it's a reflective journey for you. But it's just if anyone's sort of listening in on this, that as a man, right, it's sometimes very hard to open up and take ownership, put the hand up and say, okay, right, I know I need some help now. But the biggest thing is, where do I start? It's like, where's the best place? And obviously this is what you did. This is your journey. And it's a nice sort of piece to hear, because for guys as well, I've found, and I'm talking about myself here, is to go to somebody in person and sit opposite them face to face in a room, like I'm talking like, say, a therapist or a rehab. So it's quite intimidating. I know you can do it online, but it's sort of why people sort of go and run. I mean, I was sort of running with a guy in the forest, like shoulder to shoulder, and he was talking about how he's in his late 40s and he had a bit of he was really overweight, office-based job, all that kind of stuff, and how his mental health, and he's come off the drink as well at 48, but running. He loves running with his friend, like that movement. It feels light-hearted, less pressure, no sort of stigma or judgment around it, where he said, I don't think I'd have got into this or even thought about it if I just sat opposite a guy in a room or a pub and just had a chat. It had to be through like movement, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And I think that's where it comes back to what I said. I've go into different avenues because they're all not the same. I can't say to someone, you need to go here, because it's just not the way forward. Listen, take it on board, try different things, see what works for you, and then amalgamate them so that it suits your lifestyle.
Yeah. And as you said, you've tried loads of different things. So now what you, I guess, would have gained, and this is just for the guys listening, and you have to try lots of different things to sort of find out where, and obviously you're a business owner. So when you're business owners or you've got this passion, you kind of pick out the gaps. You sort of find where there might be little bits missing or things, and then you create. We're creators, right? So you have created, which we'll go on to, your own sober community.
Yeah.
So what was that from those experiences that sort of that, this is what?
Yeah. So Sober AF Dating was born out of a conversation with a business partner who was sober and dating, and she'd had some terrible experiences
Right.
with regards to sort of, that shall we go for a drink vibe. That's what most people say when they're looking on dates and they're on dating websites and applications that we're all aware of. And me speaking to other people having the very same experience. It's hard. Just because you're sober doesn't mean you want to date someone sober, by the way. That's what it's about. But mindful drinking is a real thing. Being sort of aware of your drinking and your habits and the traits that they become. So Sober AF Dating was born out of conversations that were like, well, there doesn't seem to be a niche for that. There's a market for those in recovery that want to date, but there's not a market for those that just want to be healthier or just want to have a better experience, one that they can have no bullshit, but without the booze, basically. So that's what we've created, and the app will come soon. But most importantly for me anyway, it's a community for the sober or the soberish. It's people that can get together in all the major cities across the UK and the other areas that we'll come to with a like-minded community in mind. How do you get to share your experience with people if you don't know they're there? Well, they are there now. And we've got platforms to open those doors for people. We've already had our in real life event. It went really, really well. We've got another one coming up at the end of May, and the app will be out, I don't know, June time, something like that, which will be exceptional for this space.
Yeah, definitely. I love it, by the way. You've explored with a business partner a gap you've seen the market, you've done your analysis, and this is sort of like a sweet spot, really. It's like a good place to sort of hang out, friendly vibes, like-minded people. What does an event typically look like then for people?
So we went to, we had the luxury of going to Aldo Zilli's restaurant, who is a famous Italian chef. He invited us down to have the undercover in Mayfair, which was incredible.
Insane.
He's exceptional host, exceptional food. So we arranged for 20, which was 10 sort of sober influencers, so to speak, people in our domain.
Yeah.
So we understand it. And then we invited 10 people from our TikTok and from our Instagram page just to come along for free on Sober AF, just to get involved. Before the dinner, we went over to the Swingers Golf.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Really
Nice.
good fun. So we got people connected. We introduced. We set a couple of couples up as a jovial way to get introduced. And then we went over for dinner. But the 20 of us sat around the table. We all shared experiences. We had some conversations. We actually had someone there who was filming a bit of a documentary for Sober Life. So we're going to be on that in the turn of the year.
Way.
So really, really, really encouraging. And this time, we're gonna put it out there on our socials. People can come along, get involved, and just connect. It's all it's about. It's just about connecting with people, and you don't have to be single. And we've got married people involved in the community. We've got people that have been dating for years. It doesn't matter. It's just about community. Because the biggest thing that we're finding is that people don't know where to go to just connect with people who are sober or mindful drinking, and we're creating that space.
Wow. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's great what you've done, and I can obviously see that it's got a lot of fun attached to it, which I think, as people that are sober, not sober, all this that you're talking about, we don't really have much fun, or we don't know where that fun is. It's like you become an adult and it's like, where's the fun? It's just sort of like gone and,
And people associate fun with drinking, right?
Yes.
And the first thing people say, you're not drinking. Well, that must be fun. With raised eyebrows. It's like, actually, it really is. Actually, remembering what I did last night is pretty fun. Having
100%.
laugh and belly laughing, not fake laughing, belly laughing. That's pretty fun. And connecting yourself with 20 other people who just want to have a laugh and a smile and a dance and some nice food or whatever it might be. You can't beat that. And then waking up the next morning, being present for those around you. I mean, I'll take that as fun every day of the week, and that's what this is about, and that's really the drive behind it for my business partner and I to create a space that ultimately, as I say, people can date. It will become there will be a dating element to it. There is an app involved.
Yeah,
you will be able to do the left and the right and all that comes with it. But you will also be able to be involved in it from a community point of view. And me and you have touched on it. Community and connection. Two really, really key for me as someone who's in a relationship, someone who's sober in a relationship. Community is key, because a lot of my people that are in my inner circle I mentioned earlier are no longer in that inner circle. They don't want to be because they've got their own demons, or I can't have them because they're an influence. They're in a different stage of their life. And that's okay. That's fine. But we need to be surrounding ourselves with people that are in the same stage as us. And that's what this sober AF dating is all about.
Yeah, and you can tell anyway, it's a light feeling. There's no hangovers. You're sort of like, right,
Yeah.
I've had my night, I've had my fun, boom, belly laughing, but I'm still feeling good going into the next day. You know, you're not sort of, it's not like going into your Monday, draining your batteries, feeling a bit deflated. You're sort of like, nah, I'm good to go. I'm feeling recharged, refreshed.
If anything, Luke, you're even more so because you're still buzzing from the night before.
Yeah, your energy's up.
Comes with it. Your energy levels. You're buzzing. You're hyped up. You know, and then you've got people connected for life.
Yeah.
I know that sounds, we've only just done an event, but I know that people will be in my phone book until until the end of days, because they are like-minded people. We have one thing in common, but actually that one thing has turned to 20 things. But we would never have met outside of the sober community that we're building. We would never have done so. But now we've got things in common all the time.
Yeah, and what do you see then as somebody who sort of like founded this, created this community platform? Like, if you now do this sort of helicopter's view again on like the people that's just experienced this, what are you seeing like with your business plan? What are you talking about? Is like, gosh, I can't believe this is a big sort of take home for us.
Well, I think the biggest take home for us is how much it's taken off and how much there was a gap.
Okay.
We felt like any business idea, you feel like it's a good idea, right? Or else you wouldn't bring it to market. But actually the feedback and the traction and the excitement already building about the next event is what's caught us off guard a little bit. You know, brilliantly, really happy to do so. And we just thought, wow, actually, this is something that we need to really look into. Now, as the name suggests, sober AF dating, it was very much initially, it was about those that wanted to date in a safe space with something in common. What we've really realised very, very quickly is that the community element is going to be just as important. And that's why it will take off in two avenues, because there's lots of people out there, myself included, that are not single but are sober. And we want to be involved in these things, because I can't go down to the pub, or I don't want to go down the pub with my friends, because there's only one thing that's going to happen there, and that's not for me. But I can go to a golfing do or a food restaurant with 20 other like-minded people, because I know where it won't go, and that's the pit for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the community side thing is, it's just that feeling, when you walk into a room, you don't feel judged. I mean, you'll probably remember this going through your drinking parts and stuff. And I know from a guy who'd been in the football environment, sort of, you kind of like in your head working yourself up to get ready for somebody to say, why are you not drinking? And that feeling is resistant. So it's like you're walking in and it's on your mind. Maybe somebody never says it anyway. It's just in your head. But maybe then they do. And then you go, I just don't want to. And it's sort of like you want to avoid that. It's like you want to run away from it. You don't want to face that. Whereas I guess what you're sort of creating is that sense of belonging, where when you go into that environment, whether you decide to have a mocktail, whatever it is, no one's going to ever question you on your choices. It's sort of like, hey, let's have fun,
Absolutely. And you're right. And you've touched on a really key important thing there, that a lot of the time it was not even whether they say it, it's you think they're going to say it.
Yeah.
You've already built yourself up for it. It's already an element of you're in defense mode. You're in rationalizing why you don't drink. Now, nobody, if someone says to you, oh, you're not doing drugs tonight, and you say no one goes, oh, that's mental.
Yeah.
You know, no one says that about anything else other than drink. No one ever questions you, and it's a weird old thing, the drinking environment, because you're made to feel bad for not getting involved in it, which is a strange one, but that's a topic for a different day. But so it's understanding what you're going into, and I think that is really, really essential, because you're going into a place where without a shadow of a doubt, you've got at least one thing in common, and that one thing is what actually drives us now. We're all wanting to do better. Everyone in the sober community is doing it for themselves, and they're doing it for a reason. And once you start talking and connecting about that, the judgment just falls away, and your walls just fall down, because you value people's thoughts, you value people's opinions, and they value yours, and there's no judgment involved. And it's just a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. I think this is great. What age range do you normally see? Like, I know you've only got one event so far. What is it typically?
Well, you know what? It's crazy, because we expected it to be sort of bit older. When
Okay.
I say get older like mine, from 35 to 55 is what we
Okay.
expected.
Yeah.
Doing our research with regards to, your general, a lot of young people are on dating apps, but actually it's the older ones who spend the money on the dating apps, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But actually, the world is changing, and a lot of younger people don't want to drink or are mindful drinkers now. So we have 75-year-old on our waiting list, and we have 20, 21-year-olds. So it is
Wow.
real range. It is really diverse because, again, even as much as the world is changing, as much as the younger generation are not actually in communities as much because they're on their phones, they're at their homes, they're behind social media, and getting people out and to connect and face to face is a difficult thing. It doesn't happen much, especially if you're sober, because again, you go out with a view that, we'll get drunk, we'll go to a party, we'll go to this, we'll do that, and it all surrounds around drink. So what we're trying to bring that other element to it. So the age has been quite interesting to see that it's really diverse, really diverse.
Yeah, interesting that you share that because I hear loads of different views on it. I mean, I'm just talking from my dad's perspective here. He's late 50s and he goes golfing, goes on the golfing tours and the weekends, and all those guys want to do is get absolutely wasted after the golfing trips to Portugal. And I know sometimes my dad just gets drawn into it. I know he doesn't want to drink as much, but they're getting the rounds in. It's like they're taking. I've got round, and you're like, I'm all right, mate. Well, I've got you on now. Have it. And it's sort of as a guy, you go, all right then. And it's caving into that. And I know it's that social pressure, but it's trying to break away from that and having those, like what you're saying is sort of, but you don't have to do that. It's sort of conditioned in that culture sometimes to be, well, obviously I know it's the people you're surrounding yourself with, but it's just that. And I think a lot of it, I'm talking on my dad's behalf here, he's never told me this, but I just feel like he's doing it to fit in. I don't think he's doing it because, if he was around like four of me, and I'd be like, maybe have one or not, maybe just not have any, I think he'd be very much like, it wouldn't,
Yeah, completely. I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about surroundings and surrounding yourself with like-minded people where, when you, in your football days, you're surrounded by footballers. So you looked after your body. You took care of what went into your body. You actually made conscious effort, all of you. You come out of that circle and all of a sudden you're in the bar and then it's like, let's get on it. Let's do this. Let's do that. And again, it goes to where it goes. Yeah, it's surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And I think that works really well for the boardroom or business, because if you surround yourself with people who are driven, determined, ambitious, goal-orientated, you become those things. And I think that's where sometimes the drinking culture in business can also take over a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just refreshing to sort of hear that what you're creating in the background is a space, a safe one for people to sort of come out. No matter the age, really, if you can come here, we hold this space and seriously, there's no judgment. So what would you say is next for you now then in your part of your life?
It's a good question. I've just moved out to the country, as I say, so I've got a bit of a project with regards to that. I think I need a home in. The recruitment element of our business is one that's full transparency. So we are the UK's first contingency labour to bring a live payroll plus a margin, a plus fee to the process. So really homing in on that, really growing that, because it's huge. The marketplace for what we do, contingent labour, got to do a lot of that. But the sober air thing's going to continue to grow as well. So I think for me right now, it's just a real focus on stabilising, structuring, continuing to do what I do honestly and openly and continue to connect. I want to be someone that supports people, whether that be in the recruitment element, sober element, just in, family element. I want to be able to give back a little bit because I took so much for so long. So for me as a person, it's just about being completely transparent, being honest, being authentically myself and unapologetically as well. I am what I am now, and that, like it or don't, be involved or not, I want to be able to give a bit back when it comes to that. And now I'm out in the country, I'm just going to start to sort of wind down a little bit when it comes to outside of work, try to at least.
Yeah, you've got your piece.
Yeah, mate, I have. And I don't intend to lose it. When you get something that you really crave for many, many years, you want to ring fence that and hold on to it and enjoy it. And that's what I need to do. I need to enjoy what I've created. And when I say created, I mean the family that I've created, the lifestyle that I've created. Business is business. Business is doing well, but business is not the be all and end all for me. It's great. It pays for things. It does, and I mean things, i.e., support, freedom. It pays to that element. But without the family, the business doesn't mean anything. So I've got to ring fence that. I've got to keep hold of that piece and grow it, and make sure that my children grow up with that piece as well. That peace of mind where they can come, they feel valued, they feel supported, they feel loved, and that's really all I'm aiming for now.
Are you enjoying life right now?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, absolutely. I am. I've never been happier. And someone said to me the other day, "What do you have that you didn't have?" And the answer was more. And I was like, more what? And I was more everything. I have more of everything. I have more love, I have more connection, I have more peace, I have more serenity, I have all the holier words, but I also have more passion, more drive, more ambition, more everything.
Absolutely. I think do you know what? It's interesting, and I love that, because it's sort of the intro of this podcast. When you listen back to this episode and the intro's in, I talk about connecting to your true identity, or to your edit. It's like you've connected back with yourself. You're sort of like, it's like Jono's inside of Jono now, whereas Jono was somewhere else before.
Definitely was. Yeah, I don't know where he was, but I found him now, and I don't plan on letting him go.
Yeah, but you can sort of like feel that. Obviously, presence is a big thing. You've changed your environment to sort of know that when work's off, or you've sort of stepped out. You're not stepping back out into chaos. You're sort of stepping out and seeing the world and go, wow, this is beautiful. Wow, I'm present. Whoa. How pinch me moment, how grateful am I, sort of thing.
Absolutely spot on. Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, look, Johnny, we're getting towards the end of the episode, buddy. I think it's been absolutely insane that we've picked out and brought it together, but you can really tell as a human and business owner that you're very playful with it now, but you're also giving back to others, which I think is commendable and respectful in the world that we, are in today. And I think community is massive as well. This is a question that I ask every guest, and I want to kind of hear your perspective and views on it, because I think, well, it links to the podcast anyway, but it's always nice it's like a nice concluding piece. So what does mastering your life mean to you, Jono?
Mastering my life. I think I'm on my way to mastering my life, because I'm at a stage where I'm in control of myself. My destiny is in my own hands.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really key for me, because I wasn't the master of my own life. Alcohol was the master of my life, and I now am. I've taken that control back. So I'm on my way there. I work on myself daily. I work on everything that I do, whether it's body or mind. I work on myself daily, and I'll continue to do that. I don't think I'll ever master it, but I'll certainly become, a guru in it, of my own life at least.
Yes. Yeah. I'm absolutely inspired by what you've said. And, when you listen back to this or view it back, that right there, that control piece, the word control has definitely been something that's conveyed that freedom for you. And it was a quote that I heard: ownership conveys freedom. And I think if people look at their life, either pull themselves out of where they are right now, like you say, that helicopter's view, or, when people say, look at yourself in the mirror, and you just ask yourself a simple question: am I the owner of my life, or am I a victim of my life? It's sort of like a bit of a, eye-opener, and you've taken ownership, and look at the difference.
Yeah, mate. Absolutely.
Insane. Well, look, if anyone's listening onto this and go, I really want to connect with you, maybe they even want to sort of be a part of your plans with Sober AF Dating, or just being a part of an event, or just want to connect with you online, where can they find you?
LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. Johnathon Dowling on LinkedIn. With regards to the sober piece, we can register on Sober AF Dating. If you want to have a conversation, just message me on Instagram, or again on LinkedIn. And the same, I think, from the recruitment piece. So any connection, come to me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk.
Brilliant stuff. I'll make sure that's in the show notes anyway, so people can just easily click your links and follow you either on, like, say, Insta, LinkedIn, or anything like that. So it'll all be very, very easy. Final thing from me, Jono, really appreciate your time on the podcast. I've really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, me too, mate. Thank you very much for having me.